My name's Patriot Smoothie. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you about the new model that 338 just put out on the Alberta election coming up at the end of the month. The UCP is absolutely dominating. The NDP has fallen way behind in the prediction models, and the UCP are now over 70% odds of winning the next election and forming a majority government. But that doesn't mean you can stay home and not vote. On May 29th, make sure that you show up to the polls and that you elect Daniel Smith and keep Alberta strong. Keep the Alberta economy going. Guys, with Bill C-11, we don't know what's going to happen going forward. So if you're new here, consider subscribing, consider following me on Facebook. Wherever you're watching this right now, consider following me because we don't know what C-11 is going to do and how it's going to censor the internet. If you want to stay in the loop, if you like my opinions, if you want the real news, guys, you want the real news, follow me, Patriot Smoothie, and I'll give it to you. And make sure that you stick around right to the end because we're going to have a fantastic clip of Pierre Poilievre absolutely destroying Trudeau here in question period. You don't want to miss it. Before we dive into the good news, I am obligated to talk about some of the not so great stuff that's happening in our country right now. And some of you, many of you probably heard by now, it's the top story on the CBC, even though they disabled the comments because they're a bunch of cowards and they don't want Canadians speaking out against them and the government narrative that they're shoving down everyone's throat. But you may have heard that Pastor Art Perlowski of Calgary has been found guilty on 2 criminal charges. He's been found guilty of mischief. Yeah, mischief, the thing that they charge everyone with. It's a catch-all, end-all for anything that goes against what the government wants. This is all to do with a speech he gave back in 2022 at the Coutts border, where the Crown argued successfully, apparently, that he was committing mischief and breaching his bond conditions, his bail conditions to keep the peace and be in good behavior when he was saying things like hold the line because that's whatever. Additionally, 14 months after the fact, more than 14 months after the fact, Harold Jonker of Jonker Trucking has been charged with 4 criminal counts, including mischief, counseling to commit an uncommitted indictable offense ×2, and then 1 count of intimidation for obstruct block highway. It's ridiculous. This witch hunt is continuing. So that's the bad news out of the way. Now let's jump to 338 and their election prediction models for the Alberta election at the end of this month in May 29th. We can see that the odds of winning the most seats for the UCP is up 73% to the NDP 27%, and the odds of outcome UCP majority 73%. Alberta, don't sit on your hands. Make this happen. Get out, get involved, and vote on May 29th for the UCP and keep the NDP out of office because the NDP wants to raise your taxes. They want to make life less affordable for you at a time when we're having uncontrolled, out of control carbon taxes from the Trudeau Singh government, and Notley refuses to speak out and speak up for Alberta against the federal government imposing these carbon taxes that are killing Alberta jobs, that are raising the price of your cost of living, that are making everything more unaffordable for you. And Notley just nods her head and goes along with it. You need somebody who's going to stand up for you, and that's Daniel Smith. Here's an article from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Notley is pro-carbon tax. Nowadays, with many Albertans struggling to fill their fuel tanks and grocery carts, NDP leader Rachel Notley is singing from the hymn book of affordability, but her lyrics need a fact check. Remember, the Alberta NDP is a section of the federal NDP. That's how the NDP functions. And speaking of that, Singh has not yet endorsed Notley. That speaks volumes. Singh and the NDP know that the NDP Singh brand is toxic in Alberta. The carbon tax is currently $50 per ton, and the Trudeau Singh government is going to triple it in the next 8 years. An Alberta family sent the CTF their natural gas bill for a winter month. They used 850 cubic meters. The carbon tax for that amount is $83, and it's going to be tripled. That would be over $200 in the next 8 years. Unaffordable nonsense, and the NDP is just going to sit there and make it happen. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they advocated for that price to be even higher. They want you taxed to oblivion. Notley has signaled that her NDP team won't waver in its support for the carbon tax. Even when the price at the pump was at a 10-year high this past June, the NDP refused to join the Alberta government's calls for Ottawa to suspend fuel taxes and carbon taxes. Premier Daniel Smith's recent move to entirely suspend the 13-cent per litre provincial fuel tax on gasoline and diesel will save people about $15 every time they fill their pickup truck, so it will provide some relief. If politicians want to get serious about affordability for Albertans, all of them should call for the carbon taxes to be scrapped entirely. So that's the skinny of it. You need to get out there and make sure that the UCP win in a landslide like the models predict that they will. You need to get out there and make sure that Never Notley doesn't get anywhere near the levers of power so that she can tax you and your family into oblivion and destroy the Alberta economy. To cap off this feel-good video, I want to leave you with one more thing. Justin Trudeau getting absolutely destroyed by Pierre Poilievre in question period yet again.
Members of Parliament can't vote in the interests of Canada while their family members are threatened as consequence of those votes. It is unacceptable, as the Prime Minister said, which is why it's so strange that he accepted it. Right. His government produced a briefing note which exposed these threats to the MP's family 2 years ago. And yet the diplomat that worked to punish a Canadian MP's family is still in Canada when the Prime Minister could have expelled him. Why didn't he expel this diplomat?
Oh wow, Justin Trudeau actually answering his own question for a change, and Justin Trudeau actually showing up to work. Usually he's not there, and we're talking to the air. Justin Trudeau decided to come into work. I wonder why.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Absolutely unacceptable for any Canadian to be subject to intimidation by a foreign power, particularly threats against family and against families of members of Parliament. That's why, as the reports came out this morning, I immediately asked officials to follow up on these reports and to get to the bottom of this. I also asked...
Yeah, follow up on these reports 2-3 years later. What a joke.
For outreach both on the political and the official side to the member in question. We are going to continue to make sure this is taken extremely seriously.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, that's just false. He didn't immediately take action. He took action after the media found out about it.
Exactly. Once the temperature in the kitchen is raised to a point he can't stand anymore, that and only then will Trudeau act on something. He waits and waits and waits until it's actually being brought to his attention. Mr. Prime Minister, why didn't you deal with this spy who's committing espionage against Canada and threatening members of Parliament? Why didn't you deal with that 2 years ago? Oh, hold on, I'll get my people right on that. It's a joke.
Will he expel him today?
There should be no questions asked. That's, you're threatening the family of a member of Parliament for political reasons because of, your country's ordering you to or whatever. You're finished. Get out. We don't want you here.
As the reports were made public this morning, we followed up immediately with top officials to get all the information on this file, on what happened, on who was informed and who was not informed, to make sure that we are following up in an appropriate way. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it shouldn't have happened.
Can the Prime Minister confirm if the responsible diplomat from Beijing will be expelled by the end of business day today?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Speaker, I want to assure every member in this chamber that we take...
Mr. Speaker, it's time for the Prime Minister to stand up and do his job.
Yeah, why was Marco Mendicino standing up there? It should have been why is the Prime Minister having other people answer questions for him, take the heat for him? The Prime Minister is responsible for this. The buck stops at him. He's the responsible person. He's responsible for the actions of his government. He needs to answer for his government. I'm even surprised that he decided to show up at all. Usually this guy just stays home, plays hooky or whatever it's called, and doesn't come to Parliament. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about his job. He's paid for nothing. Hooky? Hockey? Playing hockey. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up for Canadians. Stand up for your office. Stand up for the obligations that you have, and show up to work and answer the questions that are asked of you. Don't let your deputy minions do it for you, coward. And Marco Mendicino rises again. Guys, in 2025, get the Liberals out. Vote for anyone but them. Vote for the Conservatives because they're going to have Roman Baber on there. They're going to have a good team. Good enough. Better than what we have. We are destitute here. Let's make a change and get good people elected into office. All right? I know it's not going to be perfect and you're not going to love them. They're not your superheroes. They did this wrong. They did that wrong. They didn't please you here. They didn't please you there. But some of them are trying, and with Roman Baber on team, we really need to consider voting for them this time. We really need to consider just anything else but this. Why do we want the status quo? I'll take a 10% speed reduction as we're careening off the cliff over 100%. I'll take any reduction, any protection that we can get. So that's the logic here. And let's build your movements, build whoever you want, build them up, make them into what you want them to be. But in the meantime, we need to do something to put a little bit of the brakes on here as we're careening off a cliff. I'll finish off with this meme. Sorry, it's not a meme. It's an official post from the Liberal Party. Time and again, Hillary Clinton has been a global leader on human rights, strengthening the middle class, and building an economy that works for everyone. We're excited to announce that she'll be joining CA Freeland for a keynote conversation at their conference here in Ottawa, the Liberal Conference, Friday, May 5th, which is this Friday. All I can say is I hope Hillary Clinton is here to give them election advice, because that would guarantee a huge Conservative victory. See you next time.